welcome to the Contrary, a discussion of news and social trends from diverse perspectives. Up first, immigration reform takes center stage. This week, the Justice Department sued the state of Arizona to overturn its tough new immigration law. The law would require police to question a person's immigration status if there's a reasonable suspicion he or she is in the country illegally. That when stopping people for other possible violations. The law requires legal immigrants to carry immigration documents. Republican Governor Jan Brewer says the law responds to years of border security issues, including drug trafficking, kidnapping, and murders. But the federal government claims Arizona's law is unconstitutional, and it harms the federal government's pursuit of terrorists, gang members, and other criminal immigrants. A new poll finds more than half of Americans support Arizona's law, but opponents say it permits harassment and discrimination against Hispanics regardless of their citizenship status and is prompting other states to pass similar laws. Congresswoman Norton, is the immigration system so broken that only the states can fix it?
Oh, Bonnie, the immigration system is very broken, but breaking it into 50 more pieces will surely collapse it.
Look, I mean, this problem is so broken, I'm actually calling for the federal government to do something. One of the few things the federal government ought to be doing is providing for the common defense and securing our nation's borders, and the only reason states are acting is because the federal government isn't.
I don't think immigration policy is broken so much as our government is broken, and the fraternity of leadership is just not working.
I agree with Genevieve. As a libertarian, I am loath to admit this, but I do think this is one of the few areas that the federal government should be intervening.
All right, what's going to happen? Presumably Arizona's law will be thrown out, Congresswoman Norton. Will it be thrown out completely, or just the parts of it, for example, that require legal immigrants to carry certain documentation, which should be the province of federal law, or asking their police to check person's immigration status when they stop them for something else, presumably a suspicion of a local crime?
Well, notice, Bonnie, that the federal government's main account is on its own preemption authority, that only the federal government can or should enforce immigration. I agree.
There's no role for local police in border states to do anything like refer a believed or a reasonable suspicion of a criminal entrant into the country over to the feds?
Now that's where the states are going to, that's what the states are going to argue. They're going to argue that this is really parallel to what the federal government is doing. The federal government is going to say, just a moment, not only does this affect clearly a presumptive federal matter from which the states are excluded, it does so for a reason. It affects, for example, international relations. You can't have 50 states deciding the posture of the United States with respect to people coming in. As a practical matter, only the federal government can do it, and the federal government, not fraternal leadership, but Congress of the United States, men and women, bear responsibility for not having gotten a law that could be signed by the president through the Congress.
Well, but there is a role for states and local communities. I mean, and what's interesting about this is the Obama administration, even under the Homeland Security Department, has given grants to states and local communities in the past to help with border security. We ought to be doing a lot more. I mean, they are the folks on the ground, but that's a joint effort. It's not just states acting on their own. They're doing so, obviously, with federal authority. Look, the bottom line is we have got to secure our borders, and it is not fair to the people of Arizona or the people of Texas or the people of California, and increasingly now all 50 states, that the government is not doing that. The reason we didn't get it last time because it was way too over the top, trying to pile everything in. Amnesty was too center stage. We've got to take incremental steps, and the first one, securing our border. And I don't know anybody, unless we have somebody here, who thinks we shouldn't do that. That at least that's something we can agree on. Then we can talk about worker programs. Then we can talk about what do we do with the people that are here. But just stop what's currently coming.
Well, yeah, you could argue that you're already doing that because they've doubled border security within the last year. And by the way, the number of people coming over the border is fewer
Mainly due to the economy, though, not due to enforcement.
We don't know. You don't know that, and I don't know that. But we assume.
Well,
that
no, there are people who've done surveys who say that. Look, we haven't. Most of the illegal immigration and legal immigration is economically driven. If they don't think they can get jobs here, they're not going to come.
No, I totally agree. But we can't take the position that, in fact, securing the border will only be a good thing to do if the economy is bad. We ought to secure the economy when we had that economy that was going through the roof.
Well, I think securing the border doesn't actually deal with the underlying issue. The fact that, as you mentioned, people are coming here because they have better opportunities here. We have thrown up all these barriers to entry, and people still think it is worth it. It is worth them to go into a black market economy. It is worth them for them to be off the grid. It is worth them to pay traffickers to get them across the border and to live outside of the law, because to them they are still, they gain economic benefit from that. And so we need to address that. And we only do that through having a proper temporary guest worker program, and also through free trade, through strengthening the economy of Mexico so that people don't feel the need to come here, that they can actually, make it on their own down there.
I hear a lot of shoulds from both sides of the table, but all it becomes is a political hot potato. And I just want to say, hats off to Governor Brewer. I have a lot of respect. She's doing something that took a lot of strength to do, that she believes serves her constituents. And what I meant by the fraternity of leadership is we have a new government in place now that said they were going to do things differently. Turns out it's the same as a government we had for 8 years under Bush. We're not getting anything done because we've become so partisan we can't work together. And I think you're seeing a lot more women run. We just had a lot of women run on the Republican side and win, and we're seeing that on the Democratic side too. We need some changes. We need to bring in new faces and start to do things differently, because we're talking about all these great things we can do, and meanwhile nothing is getting done.
I wish that would solve the immigration crisis. I think you're right. We may have to do something like, say, incrementally.
But it will solve.
But wait a minute, can I get this out first? Because I think this is something that both sides may agree upon. We've been going back and forth and back and forth. The Republicans jumped off the ship that said, let's do it all together, which obviously makes more sense, because a win-win always makes more sense. But the way this has polarized our nation is so bad that if you could say, here's 1, 2, 3, and you will know that 1 is done and you'll have an indicator there. Then you can go on to 2, and then you can go on to 3. I'd be willing to work with the other side of the aisle on that at this point, if they would be willing to help to get it that way, because we're getting nowhere.